This video is sponsored by Surfshark. Over the past few months, Lucasfilm head honcho Kathleen Kennedy has been overseeing production of the latest Indiana Jones movie, while high-profile articles in trend-setting publications such as The Atlantic have, with or without naming her, branded her vision of Star Wars a failure. Against that backdrop, and that of Bob Chapek's restructuring of Disney, many have come to be of the opinion that Kathleen Kennedy's current contract is extremely unlikely to be renewed once it expires in a couple of months. There is, however, one outlet, and one with a fairly solid track record at that, which says that contrary to what common sense may suggest, Kathleen Kennedy is a lock to be renewed. Not only that, she'll stay with Disney and Lucasfilm for however long she pleases. Could that be true? In this editorial, I will go through the claims made in this scoop, see how well they line up with Chapek's new vision for Disney, and, if indeed accurate, what it may mean for the future. If Kathleen Kennedy does end up being renewed though, it will make a lot of fans extremely displeased, to the point where they will want to cancel their Disney Plus subscriptions and take to the high seas instead. Please note that this is something that neither Midnight's Edge, our sponsors, nor any other affiliates condones. Not only is piracy wrong, you are exposing yourself to endless spyware, tracking software and other malware out there on the high seas. And that's on top of all the data that is stolen from you during all your regular browsing activities. Well, modern problems require modern solutions, and many of them can be found in a VPN, such as the one delivered by this channel sponsor, Surfshark. A VPN, or Virtual Private Network, is a privacy protection tool which guarantees instant online safety and encrypts all data sent via the internet. On top of that, Surfshark allows you to bypass geo-blocking restrictions by changing the country you access the internet from. This also gives you access to 15 different Netflix libraries by simply changing your virtual location. Not only that, outside of the US, Star, the international version of Hulu, comes bundled with Disney+. If you're in the US and change your location to, say, the UK, well then you just might get that too. One of the advantages with Surfshark over many other VPN providers is that it allows one account to be used on unlimited devices. That's part of the reason why Surfshark is the VPN of our choice, and it gets even better. If you type in the code MIDNIGHT when ordering, that triggers an exclusive offer in which you now get 83% off the normal list price, plus 3 extra months for free. Surfshark also offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk in trying it out. Do check out the link in the description below for further details and to order. With that, let us get back to how Star Wars isn't out of the woods just yet. Across several videos over the past few months, we have, alongside Kamran Pasha, broken down how the industry trades suggest, although they have never outright claimed, that Kathleen Kennedy is on her way out the door. One who expresses a different point of view, though, is our good friend and entertainment journalist Mikey Sutton over at Geekosity magazine, where the original version of this Geekosity exclusive was published on August 21st, in conjunction with the site's 1-year anniversary. According to Sutton's sources, Disney is planning on renewing Kathleen Kennedy's contract as Lucasfilm president at the end of October. There are 2 main reasons for this. First, the sequel trilogy movies each made $1 billion globally. Despite polarized fan reactions, Disney is basing their decision on financial returns. Secondly, Kathleen Kennedy is credited for the massive success of the Star Wars series on Disney+. Of course, much of this is due to the creative direction of Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. However, they fall under her watch. Thirdly, both Bob Iger and Bob Chapek are supportive of Kennedy in her role. Kennedy will have the same power she has always had. Nevertheless, the Disney Plus Star Wars projects are pretty much under the supervision of Filoni and Favreau. Sources indicate that the only way Kennedy would be gone is if she retires at this point. Okay, there is a lot to unpack here, so let's do that. First and foremost, know that this is not as bad as it may appear at first glance. Let us, for the sake of argument, assume that this scoop is on the money, and that at some point between now and November, we'll learn that Kathleen Kennedy has indeed been renewed at Lucasfilm. Why would Disney do something like that? Well, according to Sutton sources, for two main reasons. One, the sequel trilogy movies all grossed over $1 billion, and two, Kennedy had a huge hit with The Mandalorian, which she is awarded credit for. In my opinion, these would not be the real reasons. I'm not saying that Kennedy won't be renewed, mind you. I'm saying that if she is, these aren't the real reasons why. To me, these read like official rationalizations, the kind of arguments you put in a press release to showcase how awesome Kennedy is. To the point that both Bob Iger and Bob Chapek are unified in how awesome Kathleen Kennedy is at everything she does. About that, remember, Iger and Chapek are two men whose relationship, according to the trades, have grown so strained that a point had to be made to deny it during the Q3 investor meeting. That's when you know things are bad. There are, of course, many things Iger and Chapek can be in agreement on, but I'm not sure that how awesomely Kathleen Kennedy has managed Lucasfilm would be among them. On the contrary, it sounds to me like Sutton's sources may have been provided with some kind of official party line. This, of course, does not necessarily influence the validity of the overall scoop, namely that Kennedy isn't going anywhere, one way or the other. It only means that if she does end up being renewed, the real reason for that may differ from the publicly stated ones. Because in reality, Disney knows that The Force Awakens should have been but the starting point, with each new movie surpassing the previous one at the box office. What actually happened, though, was that The Force Awakens represented the high watermark, with each subsequent movie costing more and grossing less. For a franchise such as this, that's a negative trajectory, and company chiefs generally aren't too thrilled about those. To say nothing about the tanking merchandise sales, and they are of the utmost importance to Bob Chapek. But then it gets interesting. Sutton's source says, Kennedy will have the same power she's always had, only to immediately turn around and say, nevertheless, the Disney Plus Star Wars projects are pretty much under the supervision of Filoni and Favreau. That's code for that Kennedy is a figurehead, as she has been for a good while already. Implication being that she can keep herself entertained with her little pet projects like Indiana Jones and the Acolyte and the High Republic, while Favreau calls all the shots on the real projects that matter, The Mandalorian and its spin-offs. Finally, multiple of Sutton's sources say that Kennedy will stay at Lucasfilm until she decides she no longer wants to. That implies she is unfireable, which in turn implies some heavy power play, because if that indeed is accurate, it goes directly against everything Bob Chapek is doing in his restructuring of Disney. Bob Chapek is making some drastic and highly publicized changes within Disney. Under the previous Bob Iger regime, studio heads like Kathleen Kennedy and Kevin Feige enjoyed near complete autonomy to do what they wanted, as well as extremely lucrative multi-year contracts. If they were to decide that they wanted to use the franchises under their control as tools for political activism at Disney shareholder expense, there were no checks or balances in place to either prevent them from doing that or for removing them. That is about to end with Bob Chapek. Chapek has stripped autonomy from the studio heads and given that power to distribution and to merchandise. Merchandise in turn have a direct link to third-party licensees, which in turn have a direct link to the audience, or more accurately, consumer preferences. And that is what, under Chapek's regime, the studio heads will ultimately answer to. Under Chapek's rule, Kathleen Kennedy couldn't have fired Gina Carano on a whim. Not without checking with merchandise if they were cool with her firing their hottest selling toy. Likewise, under Chapek's rule, Feige would not have been free to greenlight the various upcoming Marvel movies and Disney Plus shows that no one asked for but that we're still getting, not without clearing it with distribution first, as they have final say in what there is demand for, what gets a theatrical release, and what goes to Disney Plus. On top of that, these studio heads would no longer be enjoying multi-year contracts with complete job security, as Chapek is replacing those with short-term contracts. In order to be renewed, distribution and merchandise have to agree that certain deliverables have been met. Under Chapek, this is being implemented company-wide right now as we speak, as it was confirmed in the Q3 earnings call presentation. If Kathleen Kennedy is somehow exempt from that, and if she indeed is renewed, then there is altogether a different reason for that than what will be told to the public. If Mikey Sutton's exclusive scoop is indeed accurate, if Kathleen Kennedy is renewed, it won't be for the reasons publicly stated, but for some other undisclosed real reason. Bob Chapek values merchandise, and no executive in modern Disney history has been worse at that than Kathleen Kennedy. If she is renewed though, she'll be mostly a figurehead, as Jon Favreau would be running the bits of Star Wars that matter the most, in conjunction with merchandise and distribution. Regardless of who on paper runs Lucasfilm, Disney is being transformed into a for-profit corporation under Bob Chapek. So, if Kathleen Kennedy does end up being renewed, what do you think would be the real reason for it? Let me know in the comments. And after you do, check out Mikey Sutton's upcoming horror comic Dreamwalker. Also, remember that to help bypass quarrelsome geo-blocking restrictions and protect your data, you should get Surfshark VPN. Use our code MIDNIGHT to get 83% off plus 3 extra months for free. Link is in the description.